It's March 31st, and the strange side of history awaits. Today, we have men left to freeze on open ice, a killer who lingered among his victims, and voices from beyond that changed belief forever. Let's begin. On March 31st, 1914, the ice looked safe, but out on the North Atlantic, 132 sealers stepped off the SS Newfoundland onto the endless white ice, believing they would return to the ship by nightfall. But when night came, the ship never did. A blizzard rolled in without warning, and howling winds, blinding snow, and freezing sleet that cut through the skin like glass. Some men tried to build shelter, others kept walking, because stopping meant death. Hours passed, then more. Temperatures dropped so low that men froze where they stood. Some huddled together for warmth, only to wake up beside lifeless bodies. By the second day, the ice was no longer silent. It was filled with whispers, delirium, and the slow collapse of exhausted men. One survivor, Skipper Tom Dawson, lay down to die, until others stacked frozen bodies around him, using the dead to shield him from the wind. And it worked. He lived, but the cold took both his legs. Nearby, a father and son were found frozen together, locked in a final embrace, which would later be immortalized as a memorial statue. After 53 hours, rescue finally came. 77 men had died on that ice, and when the rescue ship returned to shore, it carried dozens of frozen bodies stacked on its deck. When the storm finally passed, the ice was covered in silence, and the shapes of men who never made it home. On March 31st, 1922, something was already wrong in a remote farm called Hinterkaifeck. Days before, Andreas Gruber, a farmer, noticed footprints in the snow, leading from the forest to the house, but none led back out. Then came the sounds, footsteps in the attic, where no one was supposed to be. An unfamiliar newspaper appeared inside the home, keys went missing. It seemed like somebody had been watching. And then that night, the family was murdered. One by one, they were lured into the barn and killed, their bodies stacked in the hay. Inside the house, a maid and a 2-year-old child were also murdered, alone, in silence. But what happened next is what makes this case truly terrifying. The killer didn't just leave. For days after the murders, neighbors saw smoke rising from the chimney, the cattle were fed, meals were eaten, and someone was living in the house with the bodies. By the time the victims were discovered, the killer was gone. Over 100 suspects were questioned, but no motive was ever found, and no one was ever convicted. And to this day, no one knows who stayed behind in the house after the killing stopped. Some believe the killer knew the family personally, others think it was just somebody hiding in the house, waiting. On March 31st, 1848, in a quiet farmhouse in Hydesville, New York, sisters Kate and Maggie Fox lay awake, listening. At first it was faint, just a soft tap somewhere in the walls. Then it came again and again. They called out into the darkness, daring whatever it was to respond. "Do as I do." Kate clapped 3 times. Silence. Then 3 sharp knocks echoed back. Something was answering them. The sounds grew louder, smarter, and more intentional. Through a series of raps, yes for one, 2 for no, the girls began asking questions. And something answered. It claimed to be the spirit of a murdered man, a traveling peddler named Charles Rosna, buried somewhere beneath the house. Word spread, and neighbors crowded into the small farmhouse, standing in silence as the knocking spoke, answering questions no one else could know. What started as a whisper in the walls became a sensation known as the Rochester rapping, the birth of modern spiritualism. People began to believe the dead could speak. Years later, one of the sisters would confess it was a trick, cracking joints to mimic the sounds. But by then, it didn't matter, because in 1904, workers discovered human remains behind the cellar wall in that very house, and suddenly the questions returned. If it was a hoax, then who was he? Those same knocks would turn the sisters into some of the first celebrity mediums, speaking to the dead in front of crowds who would believe every word they would say. Another day, another strange bite from history. Like, comment, and subscribe. Your next eerie dose is just a day away.